In ancient Egypt, if you wanted to look beautiful, you mixed honey, salt, and alabaster flour into a paste and rubbed it on your face. In Rome, women used chalk. In Renaissance Venice, they switched to something else: white lead, lead oxide, lead carbonate, lead dust mixed with vinegar into a mask so pale it could make a corpse look alive. They knew it was poison. They didn't care. Because pale skin meant wealth. Pale skin meant you didn't work in the sun. Pale skin meant power. And power was worth the slow dissolution of your face, the eruptions, the deterioration, the eventual ruin. The paradox of face cream isn't that it poisoned people, it's that for 3,000 years, knowing it was poison made women want it more. That's the story of how status anxiety, applied directly to skin, nearly killed an empire. To understand why women would poison themselves willingly, you need to see the world they lived in. Cosmetics weren't accessories. They were status broadcasts. Your face told everyone who you were, what you owned, what you could afford. The oldest documented skincare recipes appear in the Ebers Papyrus, an Egyptian medical text from around 1500 before the Common Era. 2 recipes for enhancing beauty of the skin combined honey, sodium carbonate, salt, and alabaster flour. Another mixed incense, wax, ben oil, and ostrich eggshell flour. Anti-wrinkle treatments came from fenugreek boiled in oil or frankincense with balsam. These weren't random experiments. These were documented knowledge, passed down, trusted. The logic was simple, and if a substance came from somewhere exotic, if it required effort and wealth to acquire, it must work. And if it made your skin feel different, if it stung or burned or created visible reaction, then it was definitely working. That psychology would survive 3,000 years. It survives today. The turning point came around 1500 of the Common Era in Venice. European aristocrats discovered that white lead, sammithium, refined into powder and mixed with vinegar, created a finish so flawless it looked otherworldly. Venetian ceruse became the standard of beauty. As the Roman writer Pliny documented centuries before, sammithium is a production of the lead works, made by dissolving in vinegar. Pale skin was no longer nature, it was power made visible. The formula was simple: lead shavings and vinegar dissolved into lead carbonate, dried, pounded, pressed into tablets. The finished product was 80 to 90% lead by weight. Women applied it daily. It whitened immediately, it filled pores. It created a varnish-like coating that announced, "I can afford to destroy my face for beauty." The problem was hidden. Long-term use caused skin thinning, eruptions, darkening. The cure paradoxically destroyed what it promised: hair loss, tooth erosion, jaw deterioration. But in the moment, you looked wealthy. You looked powerful. You belonged at court. And then Queen Elizabeth II adopted it. After smallpox scarring in 1562, her painted face became synonymous with power. Every woman in her court followed. The paradox: the poison proving status, everyone watching the slow dissolution, everyone doing it anyway. In 1760, in London, a woman named Maria Gunning died. She was 27 years old. Her death became a symbol, the moment when beauty's cost stopped being theoretical and became visible on a human body. Maria Gunning was Irish, beautiful, and became a sensation in London high society. She used ceruse, lead oxide, and hydroxide and carbonate, mixed with cinnabar rouge, which contained mercury sulfide. She used fucus lipstick, also mercury-based. By her final years, her skin had deteriorated visibly. Contemporaries claimed consumption, tuberculosis. Others blamed the cosmetics. The cause remains historically contested, but what wasn't contested was the outcome. Her death at 27 became the public realization that something was catastrophically wrong. The story wasn't medical fact, it was cultural myth. But myths drive behavior. Maria Gunning didn't just die, she became a warning, and that warning took centuries to actually change anything. The 19th century didn't learn. If anything, the poisons got worse. In the 1890s, a doctor named James P. Campbell marketed arsenic complexion wafers guaranteed to remove freckles, blackheads, pimples, vulgar redness. Women consumed them. Some died. The mechanism was simple. Arsenic kills red blood cells. Dead cells mean pale skin. The poison was the treatment. By 1933, the absurdity peaked. A Parisian pharmacist named Alexis Moussaly launched Tho-Radia, a cream containing radium bromide and thorium chloride. Point 2, 3 micrograms of radium per 100 grams. Women were applying radioactive materials to their faces. The advertised promise, glow from within. What they experienced? Alpha and beta radiation burns. The glow was cellular damage, but the immediate catastrophe came from Lash Lure mascara. On May 17th, 1933, Hazel Musser applied it at Bird's Beauty Shop in Dayton, Ohio. The mascara contained paraphenylenediamine, an untested synthetic compound. Her eyebrows had been plucked, creating open wounds. Infection plus allergic reaction. She went blind. Permanent scarring. She couldn't see. 12 to 17 other women lost sight. 1 death confirmed. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, photographed Hazel Musser's before and after. They displayed the images at the Chicago World's Fair with a placard. Cosmetics are not subject to the present law. Unsafe for eyes. Eleanor Roosevelt was invited to see it. Hazel Musser's blindness became the face of regulatory collapse. While Tho-Radia destroyed faces, this episode is brought to you by a private community I run. It runs over 100,000 deep dive courses on history, public health, and how industries choose poison when profit is easier than safety. If you've watched consumers put their trust in companies that proved themselves unworthy, the full tracks inside go even deeper into regulatory patterns and how they repeat. Link is in the description below. And now, back to what happens when regulators finally act. A Hazel Musser didn't just become a cautionary tale, she became a weapon. In 1935, she visited Washington, D.C. to testify before the Senate Commerce Committee. She described her blindness, she described the pain, she described looking at a mirror and seeing nothing. Ohio Senator Vic Donahey had been opposed to food and drug regulation, but he sat across from a blind woman who had trusted a branded product. His position inverted instantly. That same year, Senator Royal Copeland, a physician, former New York City Health Commissioner, drafted the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. He introduced it in June of 1933, months after the Lash Lure scandal. The bill's original name was the Tugwell Bill. Congress debated it for 5 years. The cosmetics industry fought every clause, but Hazel Musser's testimony shifted the ground. On June 25th, 1938, President Roosevelt signed the bill into law. For the first time, cosmetics fell under regulatory authority. Color additives would require pre-market approval. Misbranded products could be seized. But there was a gap that persists 87 years later. The act defined cosmetics as articles intended to cleanse, beautify, promote attractiveness, or alter appearance, with explicit exclusion from drug-level safety standards. This meant that while color additives needed testing, most cosmetics could be sold without pre-market approval. Manufacturers were responsible for safety, but the FDA could only act after consumers were harmed. The law created a permission structure: sell first, check for problems after people reported injuries. Tho-Radia reformulated in 1937. Lash Lure disappeared, but gaps remained. Today, the FDA still does not require pre-market safety approval for cosmetics, only for color additives. A new cream launches tomorrow with any ingredient. The FDA acts only after people are harmed. The European Union bans over 1,300 chemical substances from cosmetics. The USA bans approximately 11. Mercury skin lighteners, technically banned, are still sold online. 58% of tested products from Asian markets exceeded mercury limits. Women today apply peptides, hyaluronic acid, retinoids, words they don't understand, to faces they don't fully understand. Modern cosmetics are safer than lead and arsenic and radium, but the mechanism that made women trust poison hasn't changed. We've replaced visible poisons with invisible ones. The risk changed shape. The trust remained the same. 3 lessons hide in the face cream paradox. First, status poison. To appear aristocratic, women applied lead. Poor women applied cheaper versions of the same poison. Both used the same toxin to signal wealth because the substance itself announced, I can afford to destroy my body for appearance. That mechanism still works. We call it premium ingredients. Second, the if it stings, it works psychology. Any visible reaction meant efficacy. Arsenic paled skin through toxicity. Tho-Radia burned with radiation. Women interpreted damage as proof of effect. That logic persists. Modern consumers trust ingredients that create sensation, retinoids, acids, peptides. Irritation becomes evidence. We've simply found new poisons. Third, regulation lags trauma. Lash Lure blinded women in 1933. FDA authority arrived in 1938. 5 years of continued poison sales before protection. Today, endocrine disruptors remain unregulated in the US, while the European Union bans them. Modern regulatory lag is invisible. The gap between our willingness to apply something and our willingness to study whether it kills us. Elizabeth the First's painted face, white lead, gilt frame, candlelight catching the poison, didn't look like power because it was safe. It looked like power because everyone understood the cost. The paler you were, the more damage you could afford to endure and still appear at court. That equation hasn't changed. We simply use different poisons to measure the same status. We apply formulations we don't understand to promise results we can't verify because the act of consumption itself announces, I believe in tomorrow more than I trust today. The next time you apply a face cream, ask yourself, do I know what's in it? Do I understand what it does? Do I trust the person who made the claim? Or do I simply trust the feeling that something is happening on my skin and assume that must mean it's working? Every ordinary thing hides an extraordinary origin. The jars we buy are descended from poisons we'd recognize. We've simply learned to call them by newer names.